I have spent more money on Garmin watches than I am comfortable admitting. We are talking about the Forerunner 305 I bought in 2009, the Fenix 3 I justified on a trip I never took, 3 different Forerunner 9 series models tested back to back, and 2 Fenix 7 variants I bought within 4 months of each other to settle an argument with myself. After testing the whole range, losing money on the resale, and recommending models to friends who came back confused, I have come to one conclusion I cannot get around. Most of the watches Garmin makes are not the watch you should buy. The feature count they advertise and the value they deliver are not the same thing. Garmin has built an entire product line on the assumption that you will not notice the difference until after you have already paid. 10 Garmin watches ranked from worst to best. No sponsorships, no affiliate deals, no talking points from a press kit. Just the truth, even when it costs Garmin some sales. 2 of the watches are a complete waste of money. I will name them directly and tell you exactly why. And the one at the top earns its position in a way that almost nothing I have bought at any price has earned anything. The Garmin Forerunner 55 has a reputation. It is the entry-level watch for runners who are finally getting serious. The one Garmin points beginners toward when they ask where to start. It tracks runs, monitors heart rate, gives a basic training load readout, and costs under $200. On paper, it sounds reasonable. The problem is that Garmin built the Forerunner 55 to be survivable, not useful. The GPS accuracy on a flat run is fine. Take it anywhere with variable canopy, trail running, urban canyons, anything with interference, and the track turns into a rough sketch of where you went. The heart rate monitor sits low enough in accuracy that you would be better off training by feel. And the coaching features, which are the entire reason someone buys this over a $50 fitness band, give you feedback so generic it might as well have come from a wall calendar. It does not adapt, it repeats. This is the first watch on this list I would call a total waste of money. Not because of what it fails to do, but because of what Garmin chose not to give it. The GPS underperformance is not a technical limitation at this price. It is a product decision. You are paying for a running watch and receiving something Garmin decided was just enough to keep you from returning it. The Forerunner 55 is not a running watch. It is a running watch costume, under $200 and somehow still not worth it. The Instinct 2 Solar looked like a category answer when it launched. Military-grade durability, solar charging, battery life measured in weeks rather than days, and a price point aggressive enough to make the Fenix line look like it was charging for the logo. Convincing marketing. The watch is survivable. That is the right word for it. It will take a beating, charge passively in sunlight, and never ask for a cable for weeks at a time. What it will not do is make you feel like you are wearing something worth wearing. The display sits where it was in 2018. The interface has the charm of industrial safety equipment, and the solar charging, the entire premise of the product, requires daily outdoor sun exposure that most people who buy it simply do not get. Indoors in a gym, at a desk, in a car, the solar contribution is decorative. It is the feature that sold you the watch and the first thing that disappears when you live your actual life. Built to endure everything except scrutiny. The Venu 3 is Garmin trying to speak Apple Watch. Bright AMOLED display, health monitoring suite, sleep tracking, body battery, animated workout coaching. It looks expensive in a way that most Garmin watches do not. The people who buy it are not necessarily athletes. They are people who want a premium health device that does not look like it came from a gear shelf. The problem is the GPS is an afterthought and the software feels like it knows it. Garmin's coaching architecture, which is the deepest part of their ecosystem, barely functions here. You are paying for the screen, and if a beautiful screen is your primary requirement, there are better options from companies that built their identity around screens. Garmin built their identity around athletic performance data. The Venu 3 quietly discards most of that identity to chase a different buyer, and that buyer deserves to know what they are getting. A wellness device wearing an athletic device's logo. The Forerunner 165 is where this list starts to get genuinely interesting. AMOLED display under $250. Training readiness and morning report features that used to be locked behind pricier models. Real GPS accuracy, a heart rate monitor that actually informs training decisions rather than just recording them. And then you hit the ceiling. No maps, no multiband GPS, no full training plans with the depth a serious runner eventually needs. Sophisticated enough to show you everything you should track, and not sophisticated enough to help you act on it. That is Garmin's business model in watch form. A genuinely good watch for someone who has not decided yet how serious they are going to get. The moment they decide, they will need something else. The Fenix 7 Standard is the watch that built Garmin's reputation among people who take this seriously. Proper multisport tracking, topographic maps that work offline, multi-band GPS that holds a clean line where cheaper options fall apart, battery life that does not require a charging plan to get through a long event, denser than the Forerunner line, more considered, the feeling of something designed to be used for a decade and handed down. The Fenix 7 Standard does not overpromise. It does not perform for the spec sheet. You put it on and it does the thing it is for, every time. That is rarer than it should be. What it is not is the most complete expression of what the Fenix can be. The next two levels earn what they cost. The Garmin Epix Gen 2 is the watch Garmin built when they accepted that some buyers will not trade display quality for anything. AMOLED, the full GPS and training ecosystem of the Fenix 7, the same maps, the same durability, and a screen that makes everything from navigation to a quick data check feel less like consulting a tool and more like reading an instrument. The difference between the Epix and the Fenix 7 Standard is not capability, it is the experience of using that capability every day. There is a cost. Battery life on the Epix runs shorter than the Fenix 7 by a margin that matters across multi-day events without access to charging. You are trading endurance for clarity. For people who run it as a daily driver with occasional long days out, the Epix is the more satisfying watch. For people who regularly spend consecutive days away from power, it is not. It does not announce itself, it reveals itself. The Forerunner 965 is for runners who have outgrown the idea that running and everything else are separate categories. Running first in every way that matters, training load, race predictor, the full coaching architecture, but it also carries maps, AMOLED, multi-band GPS, and enough depth to handle everything on one device. It is not a hiking watch. It is not a general multi-sport device. It is the best dedicated running watch Garmin makes. The people who love it are the people who run, take that seriously, and want a single device that never asks them to compromise. If your life is organized around running, this watch does not disappoint. If your life extends significantly beyond running, the right answer is probably not this one. Here is something no one at a running store will ever tell you, because telling you would cost them a sale. The watches at the top of this list are not better because they have more. They are better because the more they have is the right more for how you actually live. Garmin's ecosystem is deep enough that buying above your use case produces waste, not value. Buying below it produces a ceiling you hit sooner than you expect. These watches earn the top of this list not by overwhelming you with features, but by being the exact right amount of everything for a person who lives more than one kind of life. The Fenix 7 Pro Sapphire Solar is where the Fenix line arrives at its own argument. Sapphire crystal that genuinely resists scratching in a way the standard glass does not. Solar charging that adds meaningfully to battery life. Not decoratively, the way it does on the Instinct, but practically, in the way that makes you stop thinking about charging altogether. The built-in flashlight, the full Fenix training ecosystem, offline maps, multi-band accuracy, the build quality. This is the watch for the person who treats a watch like gear rather than a device. Not someone who tracks workouts in a gym, someone who spends real time in backcountry, who runs ultras, plans expeditions, or works where equipment failure is not an abstraction. For that person, the Fenix 7 Pro Sapphire Solar is not a premium choice. It is the correct choice. There is a meaningful difference between those two things. A watch that takes everything you put it through and never makes you wonder whether it can. The Fenix 7X Pro Sapphire Solar is every version of the Fenix argument at its largest scale. The biggest display, the longest battery, the most meaningful solar surface area, maps, training ecosystem, multi-band GPS, altimeter, compass, barometer, running at full depth on a chassis built for the person who always found the standard Fenix slightly small in the hand. Here is what nobody tells you before you buy it. It is large. Genuinely large. On a smaller wrist, it looks out of proportion and feels it. The people who own it without qualification are people who found every previous Garmin underwhelming in the hand. For them, the 7X is not oversized. It is finally proportional. Almost everything about this watch is the best Garmin makes. Almost. The Fenix 7 Sapphire Solar, standard size, full software ecosystem active, is the watch that earns the top position. Not the most expensive watch Garmin makes, not the largest. The specific configuration that carries everything the Fenix line knows how to do and delivers it in a package you want on your wrist every day, not just on training days. What makes it the answer is not that it does the most, It is that it does enough of everything that no version of your life feels underserved. Trail run in the morning, navigate an unfamiliar city at noon, track a swim, wear it to dinner without explaining it. That range, without reconfiguration or compromise, is what separates a properly useful object from a specialized one. A watch that can do that is not just a good sports watch. It is a correctly built tool for a person who lives more than one kind of life. Not all of them are. More of Garmin's lineup than you would expect is not. The right watch is not the one with the longest spec sheet. It is the one where nothing forces you to make a trade you did not want to make. Every other watch in this lineup asks you to give something up. The Fenix 7 Sapphire Solar in standard configuration is the only one that does not. That is what you find out after wearing every version of this line long enough to feel the difference. Drop your ranking in the comments, tell me who I got wrong. I will be down there reading every single one. And if you are building a real kit, not a shelf of purchases you made because a review told you to, but an actual setup that serves how you actually live, watch the next video.